And we are back with Hunter. Hunter, you're getting a lot of episodes. This is like, I think this would be number 4.
I'll take it. I'm honored.
Just in the year of 2023. Now, to be fair, listeners, I'm recording this with Hunter at the end of 2023. I'm going to give Donovan the flexibility to drop this episode in 2024. So this episode, we are going to talk about almost a taboo subject. I feel like I was talking to Hunter earlier off the air, and I said, Hunter, there's a couple topics that I feel are taboo because every time I bring them up and I solicit detailed information, I solicit brand names and I solicit specific, like, which do you think is better, this booking app or that booking app, or this bonder or that bond builder?
Right.
I feel like a lot of people are afraid to name names. They're afraid to be specific because maybe a booking app is not going to want to sponsor them if they say something bad, or a bond builder, Olaplex is no longer going to call if they say something negative about how long it takes for the processing or, whatever. Right. So, Hunter actually has delved into a couple of the most popular booking apps and is willing to get into the nitty gritty on these things. And so I think it's very, very important. I get asked a lot from our beauty professionals, should I use this app? Should I use that app? Which one should I do? Because in order to properly analyze the apps, it is hours of time, right?
Yes.
Most of them offer free trials.
Yep.
But okay, you get a free trial on Vagaro or whatever. You spend a week setting up your clients, in this booking app. There's a lot of time in advance. There's a learning curve. And then, you're supposed to get some feedback from your experience with it. And then what, you're going to do that 3 or 4 other times? That's difficult.
Right.
Okay. So let's do our best to give the listeners, is good of an analysis as we can give them here on the air. There's hundreds of them, hundreds of booking apps.
Yeah.
That's another one of the issues that is very difficult to analyze, is so many of them. There's hundreds of them and they change all the time, right? They're adding functionality constantly. We, by the way, have put a lot of time and effort into looking at the booking apps because we've considered over a long period of time, we've considered partnering with some and offering them to the Salon Republic beauty professionals. We've considered building our own. We've considered lots of different things. So that has caused me and some of the people at Salon Republic to spend a lot of time looking into the booking apps. Okay. So I know an unusual amount about these kinds of things. And so I feel somewhat confident speaking to some of them.
I love that. I'm so excited for us to get into it. That's going to be cool.
Okay. So at the risk of leaving some booking apps out, we're going to try to get our hands around a handful of those booking apps that seem to have gotten a little more marketing share than others. Okay. But of course we can't talk about them all. Some of the ones that, before we get into kind of, the ones that we're going to talk about specifically, I'm just going to read off some of the names who have been, let's call it maybe the top 20. I'm going to read off just a handful of them. Gloss Genius, Vagaro, Forest, been around a long time, Schedulicity, Salon Clouds, Square. Obviously, we all know Square because it came into the industry through its merchant processing. Yeah. Zenith is one. Also provides a lot of salon management, not just booking apps for individuals. There was one called Orchid, and now it's called DaySmart. They do a lot of spas. There's one called Salon Biz. There's one called Meet. MindBody was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
Booker, which I understand is owned by MindBody. Millennium, which is one of kind of the incumbent kind of OG. Like on your desktop type, let's manage this commission salon from the desktop type of providers. And I know that they have gone digital. I think they've gone to the cloud, which of course is what all of them are now. Glam Book is mostly international, now making a run into the United States. They have a freemium model. Okay, so we're not going to talk much about freemium models, but for the listeners who don't know what a freemium model is, it's the app is free to use. And if you want certain functionality, and I'm going to make something up, text notifications for confirmations or whatever, you're going to pay a la carte for those types of things. Style Seat, one of the early ones. There was one called Schedule. Now it's called Fresha. Fresha is another freemium model. Google has a booking app. There was one called GenBook, got bought by Booksy. Of course, Booksy is one of the big ones now. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of stop there. But I just wanted to say, I just want to read off some to give the listeners an idea of what's happening in this market, because it started off as highly fragmented, hundreds of little guys all vying for your business, beauty professionals listening. And then some of the bigger ones who have gone out and raised institutional money have been gobbling up the smaller ones. Okay. Right. And then in this kind of arms race to get customers, they've been adding functionality almost seemingly on a weekly basis, and they're all watching each other.
Yep.
So if Gloss Genius comes up with something like no-show protection, then next thing you know, Booksy has no-show protection. And don't quote me on that. That was just an example. Okay. I don't want Booksy to get mad at me and be like, we had no-show protection. So, okay. So that was just kind of my introduction to this whole thing. Now I'm going to throw it to Hunter, because you've done in-depth looking into kind of the three. I don't want to say the three, but three who have gotten a lot of market share. So Hunter, what have you found in this whole topic?
Yeah, so I think when I did some polling, I did it like within my own audience, but then I also did it with like, those horrid like free Facebook groups with like 100,000 plus hairstylists. You know what I mean? I did like some polling in each of them to see like what the majority of people are using. And I think what I found was Square, Vagaro, and Gloss Genius to be the ones that I feel like the majority of the industry is using nowadays.
I found the same.
Yeah. So those are the ones that I wanted to dive into deeply when it came to my research, because I teach so much tech and automation and all the things. A lot of the times people will come to me and ask me like, what is the best booking system? And my thing is I really think it just comes down to you and your own preferences. I think that there are a lot of pros and cons to each of them, but I think that a lot of them, like you said, stay competitive, they add very similar functionality, like base functionality to each other, or to their own platforms to be able to compete with each other. And so I feel like a lot of them have like the basic needs that you need to run something successfully. But then there's just like, then you have to get like nitpicky. Then you have to be like, okay, I really need to dive deep into what my real preferences are, what I really care about, and then go from there. And I've had personal experience using Square and Gloss Genius myself. And I have not had personal experience with Vagaro, but teaching what I do and having the students that I have, I've been able to learn a lot from it. And with the research that me and my team did, we've been able to learn a lot about the system inside and out. So those are like the three that I kind of have some expertise, quote unquote, that you could say within.
And I found similar things with our beauty professionals. Important to note that Square kind of backed into this industry by first offering the merchant processing, especially for independent beauty professionals. They were one of the first, and while they're more expensive than everybody else, they've done a great job of kind of simplifying their offering, making people feel confident in it. And then they started offering booking. They started offering it for free. And then they started charging for it last year. Yes. And I want to say April of 2022 or 3. Oh my God, I'm now losing sight of years at a time.
Yep.
This used to not happen to me. Anyway, so Square is one of the biggest ones, and Gloss Genius and Vagaro. So let's hear it. What have you found?
Dude, it's so fascinating how Square got into the industry in that way. Because I was using it when it was free appointments. And I thought that I couldn't believe that their appointments were free, but I was like, okay, well, that's just not their main game. Their main game is like the merchant processing.
Right.
But damn, they must be making like a crazy extra amount of money now that they're charging for these appointments, because now we as hairstylists are like used to using this appointment book. We are hairstylists, so we don't like change. And so I'm assuming that a lot of people just started paying for it. And for me, like in my business, I found Square it's my personal favorite out of all these three. I'm going to try my best to not be biased with what I'm sharing here today, as per usual. But for me, it was absolutely worth the upgrading and paying for the appointments on top of the merchant POS, because like you're going to be paying transaction fees no matter what. You know, you're going to be paying transaction fees no matter what. And it is like, in the grand scheme of things, yes, like it is a fair bit of money, but I feel like we should make sure that we're priced enough, like well enough, and budgeting well enough to make that so it's not something that we are completely, absolutely obsessed and focused on, because there's so many other investments and things that you can focus on that make such a bigger impact and increase your profitability in your business than this just measly little transaction fee. And I think that go ahead.
Important to note really quick, just on that tail end of that subject, I don't know of any booking app that started offering appointment booking,
right,
that now doesn't offer merchant processing.
Right.
So they're all offering the same thing now. I want to make sure the listeners who maybe are particularly unknowledgeable about booking apps don't think that the booking apps don't offer processing. They're all offering processing now.
Yes.
But Square just happened to offer processing first and then booking. Yeah. But it's very interesting how they've all kind of come together and coalesced into the same type of services and functionality now.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to like I think a lot of I think that they also recognize the need or the attraction of like having an all-in-one system, especially when it comes to processing. 100%. Like I want to be like checking people out on the same software that I'm using for my appointments in my experience.
Right.
So we can start with processing fees. I have like numbers up. I'm actually not sure how updated these are, but I believe that they're not too far off, at least as of right now. So Square for swipes and like taps, and when you're actually getting the card in person, it's 2.6% plus 10 cents every transaction. Now, I believe that if you're going to key in a card, or if you're going to be like charging a card on file, right? So doing it like remotely without the physical card.
Card not present, I think they call it.
I love that. Nice and simple. 3.5% it goes up to. And then I do believe that there's like a plus 10 cents or something like that on top of it.
And the reason, and most of these are more expensive with the card not present because the fraud incidence is higher.
That totally makes sense. So that is with Square, and which I really was upset about, because I came from Gloss Genius and I loved having my card, like a card on file, and just being able to charge it that way instead of having to ask my client to hand me their credit card. And my clients loved it too, you know? And so again, I'm not sure how up to date these numbers are. I very much apologize. But the last I checked, Gloss Genius has a flat processing fee of 2.6% across the board. No matter if the card's present, no matter if it's not, whatever it may be, it's across the board flat. And also is the cheapest out of all of these three options as far as transaction fees go.
Okay, that's great. And by the way, you mentioned something that's key to this, and I don't want it to get left in the conversation as we go into Vagaro's percentage charges, but the credit card on file. That's extremely convenient. Does Square not offer that?
Square does offer it, yes.
Okay. Would that incur a card not present 3.5%?
Yes, if you were to charge the card on file.
Ooh, that's kind of sucks.
Isn't that messed up?
Yeah.
I hate it.
That's
I'm like upset about it.
So it's on file, and the card maybe was used effectively in previous transactions, previous services from the client, but yet it's still considered a quote unquote risky transaction.
To them, I guess.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So then we have Vagaro, and the last I checked, it was 2.75% per transaction for their POS. Okay. I think it's interesting to also note, I feel like, and we'll get more into this with just like other categories of features and stuff like that. But I think it's like off the top of this, when you look at all of these three options, Gloss Genius seems to be the most affordable. And that goes into also like their subscription for their actual appointment books or like just using the software in general. The last I checked, again, Gloss Genius is, and at the time of recording this too, because whenever you're listening to this, you're going to have to check and see the
like I said, and this is why I said, it was almost a disclosure that when I said at the beginning of this episode, these guys change things all the time, almost weekly. So listeners beware. You can go to the websites. You can get all this data in real time very, very easily. It's all right there on the websites.
Yes. So Gloss Genius, to like actually the recurring subscription for using their software is $24 a month for their standard plan. And then you have Vagaro plan starting at $25 a month. And then with Square, you have a free plan that is available, and that is actually like not terrible. Like you can kind of get away with using their free plan, but I think that a lot of the features that are included in the upgraded plans are absolutely worth it. So like the upgraded plans start at $29 a month. I've found that the higher plans on top of the $29 a month ones, I found that a lot of those features that they include in them are mostly for more team-based salons. And that's another, thing that we can get into as well. And I'm not sure if you kind of took this into consideration for your research because you're looking for Salon Republic, but I think that like there's definitely differences between each of these, especially between like Gloss Genius versus Square and Vagaro, for like team friendliness and like multi-operator.
Right. It seems like about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, when we first started looking into this, the industry was bifurcated into those that were predominantly trying to service the individuals and those who were predominantly trying to service the salon as a whole. Yeah. The front desk, if you will. And in the industry, they call that enterprise. So there is an enterprise kind of software program. And of course, that started with millennial, like we mentioned very early on the desktop, floppy disk type stuff.
Right.
For those listeners who are so young, they don't remember floppy disk. I'm dating myself. That was pre-MySpace. Okay, different topic. So you know what? A quick diversion here. Do you remember, are you young enough to remember MySpace?
Yeah. So my thing, what my generation was like, some of them were into MySpace, but then most of us actually started with like Facebook. Like Facebook was really like the beginning of my generation personally. Right. I missed the MySpace train, unfortunately.
I just had the hankering to do an episode dedicated to MySpace.
I'm obsessed with that.
We're going to put that aside. Okay. So 2 years ago, these software platforms, the booking platforms, were split in between those servicing individuals, doing primarily booking, and then those trying to service the front desk of a salon with multiple hairstylists. Yeah. What has happened is those have come together, just like the functionality and the features have come together. The booking app platforms have come together, and now you have a lot of those who were previously satisfying only individuals, now offering services for whole salons and vice versa. Right. Okay. So part of the effort to get all the information out there.
Thank you.
Things have changed in that regard too. So go ahead. Now hold on. I think that for the sake of the listeners, I think let's go ahead and focus on those that are most popular with individuals. Okay. Because to get into the enterprise, it's a whole different thing. You got Boulevard, you got Mango Mint, you got all these other ones, and it's just ridiculous. There's no way for us to ever. So the three that we're talking about, the Vagaro, the Gloss Genius, and the Square, are definitely focused, but not solely, on individuals?
Yeah, I would say that like these are the ones that that individuals are using the majority of the time. And
Yes.
I think that they are set up most advantageously for independent stylists because of their original intention.
Right.
However, I feel like I have found a lot of multi-operator spaces using Vagaro. I think that that's like the one booking software that I have seen a fair share of both independent stylists and multi-operator salons using like
Okay.
simultaneously. So I think Vagaro like just from what I've seen people like enjoying, I think that Vagaro speaks pretty well and serves both of those audiences pretty well.
Okay.
I've seen Gloss Genius just because of its like, I think Gloss Genius very strongly out the gate was very much for the independent stylist.
Yes.
And they've since definitely added some team things in.
Right.
But I think that like when these booking systems are so niche down and then they just start adding things as add-ons, I think that like they're not wholly realized. They don't have the massive amount of feedback from like making it a thing that they've had for a long time, and I think that still to this day, I think Gloss Genius, and I mean as like somebody who recommends tech, I think I would not recommend Gloss Genius to a team environment ever. I think that it's definitely still for the independent stylist. And then with Square, I've had a lot of students tell me that they love Square when they were independent, but it's difficult for them to use it for a team. And I'm not sure necessarily what the reason why is, but just speaking to like the hundreds of stylists in my programs who like speak to me about this stuff, it seems like Square is definitely now for sure. And I've heard this from like other companies and like through the grapevine that Square is really trying to break into the beauty industry space now that they have paid appointments, of course. And they really are trying to focus on team salons because of course that's where the money is going to be for them. Yes. But it seems like a lot of people who have tried it for teams aren't really enjoying it very much for whatever reason. So that's what my personal experience has been as far as the feedback that I've heard.
Good feedback.
Yes. So I think going back to like, if you're looking for from my research, from my experience, I think that if you're looking for like the most all-in-one, most inclusive and affordable option that does great things, I feel like Gloss Genius is like the hit for that, because it really is I think the most simple platform, and it's very all-inclusive. As of the last time, again, at the time recording this. But I think that like the only thing that you may have to pay extra for if you want to is if you want to send out more text message marketing than it just allows you from the base like included level. Then in that case, then you have to pay more to use that feature. But I believe that all of the other features are actually included in that low subscription fee. So if you're looking for the most affordable, I think also easiest startup, it's a very simple platform to navigate from a stylist perspective. I think that it's a great option for you. I think that Vagaro is by far like the most robust out of all of them. And I also believe that it is very much the one that is the most a la carte out of all of them. I think it's like
pick and choose.
Yes, very much like, okay, you have this plan. It includes these base features, but then we have a shit ton of extra features that you can pay a shit ton of extra money for.
Okay.
From my experience of teaching a lot of like email marketing and a lot of automation and things like that, I don't necessarily find like paying for a lot of those extra things to be worth it. Like, again, it goes back to you're buying into something that is an expert in and has a niche in being a booking system, right? Like that's what their main purpose is they're a booking system and that's what they do best. And I feel like they add these like features to be able to either make more money or to offer more all-in-one solutions to make it more marketable to people. But I would rather somebody spend, let's say, $10, $20 a month instead of on like an email marketing add-on with your booking system. I'd rather you just spend money on like a proper email marketing software that actually is good and has all of the robust features and focuses on making email marketing amazing.
You know what MailChimp.
Yeah, like MailChimp, ConvertKit, even Flowdesk. Like, I think that I would rather you put your money into that because the capabilities of these extra little features that they add in there, I just don't think it's worth spending money on because it's just
Okay.
not as customizable. It's not as branded, and there's not as many features as there could be if you were using a proper email marketing software.
Interesting.
So I think Vagaro has a lot of robust features. I hear that a lot from my students is that they have really, really great robust features and there's so many different things that you can do with it. But because of that, it is difficult to use. It's difficult to navigate and it has a difficult user interface. So like starting up with it and like getting ready to use it and like getting used to using all the features can be a little bit difficult for somebody to navigate.
Right. And here you mentioned something which is often the case when we talk about a topic like this, which is kind of complicated. And that is just the concept of trade-offs. So often there are trade-offs. So if you want more functionality, you want more features, the trade-off is it gets more complicated.
Yep.
And I know through many conversations with our beauty professionals, many of them just want simplicity.
Yeah.
And that's what's right for them, right? And their business and the way that they like to think and the way that they like to work, but that's not everybody. So that goes back to kind of the subjectivity of this. Now, before we jump from that thing that you were talking about with Vagaro in terms of all the different features, some of the interesting features are Vagaro Pay Later. So a client can get on there and not pay for the entire $300 service or $1,000 service or whatever. They can pay it over time. Now, I assume that there's some charge on that. You know, there's Afterpay and there's some companies that probably Vagaro is using. I don't know. But that's kind of an interesting feature. Vagaro also has a feature of microloans. Did you know this? They're doing microloans
to the stylist.
To the stylists.
Yeah.
So actually, Square is doing that. To be fair,
yes.
Square is doing the same thing. That's not a surprise because Square, of course, started as a financial company.
Right.
So they're doing microloans to hairstylists. I would assume that those are very high interest loans. So listeners, if you're interested in doing a microloan, is just a very, very small loan.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Could be $500, could be $1,000, something like that. I would assume that the interest rate is very high on that. I don't know how it compares to credit cards because it seems to me that would be a direct, alternative to a credit card.
Right.
But definitely read the small print on something like that. You don't want to get yourself in trouble. And then the other functionality that Vagaro has rolled out that's very interesting, and I think I just saw this the other day, in fact, because I was kind of reviewing this topic myself, is they've expanded into allowing live streaming of classes.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen this?
I've seen it happen with a lot of other booking systems that they will have like some functionality for educators or for like people to be able to book classes instead. So that's interesting.
Yes. So Vagaro is also expanding into the fitness category, and a lot of these platforms, you're going to see them just like MindBody. I don't know if they started with hair, but it kind of felt like they did. And then they went off into fitness and stuff like that. And now it seems like they're not really into the beauty industry very much with
it's very much giving like fitness classes nowadays or like massages, very much like wellness focused, I feel
That's right. I would go ahead and assume that most of these guys are going to move broadly, into other categories because that's how they grow. And that's their purpose because they're businesses. So Vagaro's very much done this. They've expanded into fitness. They're allowing live streaming classes where somebody can actually sell, access to a 1-hour fitness class, and I assume a hair education class for $10 or whatever, which was very interesting. So those are examples of what Vagaro is doing. Gloss Genius is doing other interesting things, but I'll go ahead and throw it back to you.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say the live streaming, because I think another thing that I would just like to note about Vagaro is that I think that they have Both Square and Vagaro have really great integrations, but I think like with Square, it's a little bit more advanced as far as like integrating other features. But Vagaro, I believe, has a Zoom integration as well. So like if you want to do like virtual video consultations, right? And then you can have, and you don't want to have like somebody have to come into the salon to do them. You can book like a Zoom consultation with somebody with Vagaro, and you can't do that with Square or Gloss Genius as of the time that you're recording this as well. So yeah, you just brought up a bunch of really interesting, fascinating things. And, you know, I can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing when these businesses, when these softwares like expand to be more accessible to other industries or like marketing to other things, because I can't tell if that means that, okay, great, we're going to have more flexible functionality because maybe like these classes, right? This could be great for the beauty industry too. Or if that means that we're going to stray too far away from what we need individually, right? And then we're not going to get the advanced functionality, we're not going to get the updates, and we're not going to get the attention that we need. I can't tell like which one it is, you know?
Neither can I. And I think it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
To expand into other industries while simultaneously continuing to advance the feature set and improve for the original industry.
Right.
Not that it's impossible to do. I think it's hard to do, but not impossible. Right. As these companies get bigger, they're going to get more money. They're going to have more people, more capability to do to run their businesses the right way.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do it.
Right. And I mean, maybe on the same note, like I feel like what my personal journey was, I started with Gloss Genius and I thought it was super easy, very affordable. Like, so I just needed something to start my suite. Like I was just like, I just needed to get it going. So I started with Gloss Genius and I actually had a fine experience with them. But then once I wanted to start doing more advanced things, once I wanted to start to really lean into all the techie stuff that I teach, I just found that Square was the better option for me because it started out speaking to so many different businesses. I mean, like as a merchant, as a POS, like everybody uses Square. I feel like so many people do. And I think that because they originated with all these different types of integrations, all these different types of capabilities, I think that's what attracted me to them because I wanted to do more advanced things. And then on the flip side, I think where Vagaro and Square kind of differ, where like, yes, there are a lot of robust features and yes, there are some things that you may have to like a la carte pay extra for. I believe that Square does a good job at segmenting things to make it so it's as easy as it could possibly be, although there are like a lot of different things that you can dive into. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
My other things are, I think what we should really take in consideration, and we talked about this in our survey episode when we were going over our survey and we were asked our pool of people, what do you think about online booking and like, why wouldn't you, et cetera, et cetera. We were talking about having an easy user interface and like your clients having an easy time actually going through that process with you. Because we all too often think about our own experience with our booking apps, right? Instead of also thinking about the client's experience with these apps as well. For me, I found that on the client end, again, Square, I think, takes the cake here as far as online booking goes. It's pretty customizable. However, there's something with Vagaro where like you can, and even Gloss Genius too, you can like categorize like different services. So let's say you have like extension services and then you have haircut services. You can have like different categories of services. With Square, you can't, which I hate, but that's like the only downside for me. Like everything else, as far as their online booking flow goes, is really beautiful and simple. And as a consumer, I moved to a new city. I moved to Philadelphia and I had to find a new barber. And I was like I love doing that because it's like now I get to like experience this from the other end, you know? Yeah. And I hate booking through Vagaro. I hate how it's set up. I hate that it doesn't just show me the calendar, let me choose one button, see what the availability is for that day, and like choose a freaking thing. Like Square is just so much easier on the client end, in my opinion, in my experience, than these other two.
Okay. Very good advice. And why do you think that is? Why do you think Vagaro does that?
I just think that like I don't have like the specifics right in front of me. I wish I could like go through the process on each right now and like really break it down. But it seems like when you go through the Square one, it just seems more intuitive. Like I can visually see an entire calendar and I can just choose one and then it shows me the times for whatever service I'm trying to be booked. Right. With Vagaro, it's it's like a little like slider bar of all of these like individual dates. And it's so small and it's like show me next available. And then when you're working with multiple people with Vagaro, then that makes it even more complicated when you want to book with a specific person. It just doesn't seem as intuitive to me personally.
Okay.
And then with Gloss Genius, I think that Gloss Genius is like still better than Vagaro, but it's not as amazing as Square is. And I think the reason why is because and I think a lot of the reason why Gloss Genius has done very well is because it is very aesthetically pleasing. Like the graphics and the way that it's all set up is really beautiful. And of course, us as such visual people like love that and are super attracted to that. But visually appealing doesn't always mean as functional and easy to use, right?
Right.
So on the client end, it's just like this huge row of all these squares of services. And yes, you can customize them. And I think that, again, it's still better than Vagaro, but I don't think that it is as clean and beautiful as the user interface for online booking that Square has.
Okay, very fair.
So that's again, like that's my priority normally when I'm looking for a booking system, because I really care about my clients having a convenient experience when they're using it. Other things to take in consideration, I think that Square has like really awesome extra capabilities that are included in your like base plan, such as like they have a really excellent Google Calendar or iCalendar integration. I loved this because I always hated like not like let's say I had like something going on in my personal life, like a doctor's appointment or something like that. And I was like booking an appointment either by myself or there was online booking. And then I would have to check my personal calendar, but then I'd have to check my booking system calendar, like, and go back and forth. Right. So I love that Square, you can export and import those events. So like it'll show up in your Square booking system. And if it's from your digital personal calendar, and then vice versa, and then nothing will get booked, like double booked in between both of them. Gloss Genius also has that calendar integration. It's not as customizable, and it's not as there's not as much I guess customizable is the word for how you can actually use that. Vagaro's Google Calendar integration is absolutely awful. As somebody who like really cares about that and really like finds it to be, and this is where you get nitpicky, right? It's like these all have like these fine basic features that are going to be great, but then it's like you have to decide, like, is this Google Calendar integration something that you're going to nerd out about and really care about, like I am right now? And that's why it's so individual to each person.
Right. And I have my pet peeves when it comes to my iPhone or any other platform that I use on technology. If it causes you an extra step to have to look over there, or you have to, close the app and then or do this or do that or whatever. And this is why we're having the conversation, because oftentimes you don't know these things until you start using them. Yes,
very much so. One of those another nitpicky thing that I have is I cannot believe, again, time of recording this, the last time I checked, I cannot believe that to this day, Gloss Genius does not have a functional desktop feature. Like it's still just an app, like on your phone. Like that's like the only way that it functions. They don't have like a desktop web feature. And
they don't have a browser. You can't go onto the browser.
No, and they used to. So they used to when they first came out, but it was something that it was really like not as functional as the app was. And I think that they actually ended up discontinuing it and not using it anymore and like not updating it. Yeah. And that drives me up a wall. I do not want to just look at my calendar on a phone. I also want to see it on like a big laptop screen as well.
Well, yeah. And especially in the context of somebody running their small business with 200 clients.
Yep.
The CRM, the customer relationship management functionality, where you've got these clients and maybe you're trying to go through and cull the list, or you're trying to, do certain things for your business, that's not going to be as easy on a mobile phone.
Absolutely not. So
interesting.
That's something that drove me absolutely up a wall. I was so excited to be able to have like a desktop browser experience again with Square, very much so. Another thing that I really love about Square, I don't know if I'm going in the direction that you think is the way that we should go.
Yeah, all good.
The reason why I stick with Square also is because I really love that they have that you can create custom booking widgets, and I actually believe that you can possibly do this with Vagaro as well. But I couldn't guarantee you with that. You'd have to look into it yourself. But what you can do is you can create like a booking link that specifically includes only what you want it to include. So let's say that let's just say that your new client pricing is different than your existing client pricing. Like, let's say that you charge a little bit more for new clients because it takes you more time or more effort or whatever it may be. You can make a link that specifically only has, let's say, your new client services on there. And then you can make a link that only has your existing client services on there. So that way you can separate those and ensure that your client only sees these options that you want them to see, which I think is so cool. And you can do so many different things with. Yeah. Even like, let's say that like, you do extensions or you do services that like requires a consultation up front, you can make it so somebody only sees the consultation button when they go to book an appointment online. I think that's really cool. So again, a lot of my filters come back to the user's experience and the client's end, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know. What else should we get into?
Oh my gosh. Well, I touched on the CRM functionality. Again, that's the client or customer relationship management functionality. This is where it's a database that keeps the information for each one of your clients.
Yes.
This is one of maybe a blind spot of ours here in our analysis. What is your opinion on the different platforms and how they handle that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think that they're all across the board like pretty okay. The only thing that I don't love about Gloss Genius is that, again, I'm going to say it a million times at the time of recording this, I don't love that Gloss Genius doesn't allow you to just like very easily download all of your clients' information into like a CSV sheet, for example. And the reason
why Excel or a Google sheet.
Exactly. And the reason why, listener, you may want to do that is because you may want to be able to put that into another software to be able to do things with those people, right? Or maybe you want to just see all of your clients' information in a different view, and then vice versa. I don't even know if you can import like information into that as well. I know, however, that Gloss Genius customer support can like they'll do it based upon special requests. And especially like, let's say that you're moving from one booking software to another. A lot of these softwares will, because they want you to move to them, they'll like take your information, your client information, and they'll import it in for you. And then they'll be taken care of for you with the cloud. So when it comes to CRM and when it comes to like the list of your clients, I think that's the one thought that comes to mind. With my personal experience, I have found the way that I can filter people in Square. So let's say I only want to see people who haven't seen me in a year, right? Let's say that you like want to go ahead and you want to text all of the clients who you have not seen in a year so you can maybe hopefully get them back into your chair, right? Like those types of filters and the way that you can customize them is really robust. Like you can do really cool advanced things in the way that like you filter through all of the customers that actually show up on your client list. Okay. And that's my own personal experience with that. And I definitely would, from what I remember and what I would assume still now to this day, I would definitely assume that Gloss Genius's features with that are definitely not as robust as Square's would be.
Very interesting. Okay. So with Vagaro, are you able to export your client list?
I believe so. Okay. I have no reason to believe not, but I believe that you can.
Right. Very interesting. As far as the fields within the CRM, things like, there's going to be the basic things such as name and notes, phone number, contact information, things like that. I imagine there's other fields like um, maybe their last appointment. Are there details about last appointment, or what they
Yes.
got charged the last time, or
Yes.
what products they bought last time?
Yep. And that like goes along with like the filtering is like because it saves all of this different information, you're able to actually go through and like filter it all out and be able to see all of those things. And I just Googled it really quickly just to make sure. But with Square, you can also add custom fields as well. So let's say that you have some like random, I don't know, thing that you want to know about each of your clients, then you can add a custom field and then add like certain information to each of those profiles. I quickly Googled custom fields Vagaro, and I don't really see anything that's like, maybe you'd have to go in and like see, but I don't see anything like a support article or anything like that comes up quickly that says that you can do that. And with Gloss Genius, I honestly doubt that you can do it, just because, again, it goes back to simplicity. You don't have as many robust features, but that means that it's easier to use. But then it's like, if you want to do this advanced, really cool stuff, then you may have to deal with a little bit of the learning curve and to get the robustness,
Right. Okay. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. I know that some of our beauty professionals have liked the optionality of being able to choose to charge. This is on Gloss Genius, might be on others. I know Gloss came out with this. Somebody told me first. I could be wrong, but they came out with the optionality for the hairstylist to charge the client the processing fees. So we talked earlier about the processing fees, let's call it 3%. And at the end of the year, that could be $3,000. And it drives some people nuts, and other people just swallow it as the cost of doing business, and they, quote, work it in their pricing or whatever.
Right.
But Gloss allows you to charge that as an add-on, as an a la carte, price, if you will, to the client. Maybe others do as well. I know that Gloss also has a no-show protection. So I guess, you can set up parameters. If somebody doesn't cancel within 24 hours, they get charged a certain amount. And I guess there's flexibility that the beauty professional can choose, maybe it's a 50% charge of the service that gets put on the credit card. I know a lot of people love that. Gloss also is launching Genius AI. I'm just going to read straight from the thing. And by the way, we don't get paid by anybody. This is, I'm just trying to be informative. A generative AI powered marketing tool for the beauty industry. Genius AI can help busy salon and spa owners draft ready-made personalized email marketing campaigns. Okay. So they're basically just using it to write a marketing blurb,
Right.
which I don't know how advanced that is. That's pretty simple. You can go on to, Chat GPT and do that
and get a
free.
much more robust. Very much so.
Probably. So let's see some other things. I talked about Vagaro's, different things. Let me talk about. The Booksy is launching something they call service variants. It's a feature that allows beauty professionals to customize specifics, pricing, duration of services, etc.
Square has that.
They do have that now.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's amazing. That's another thing that I would love to mention is I love Square's variables for their services because, again, it goes back to my like obsession with online booking. Like basically, let's say that you have a client who needs normally a little bit extra time for a service. They can, like, if you add a variable, like let's say you have like partial foil and haircut, right? Let's say you had a variable that said partial foil and haircut plus extra time. You could have that variable. Somebody would open up the online booking link, and then they would have to choose which variable they get. And then you could just make sure that your client knows ahead of time, hey, listen, I need this extra time situation. And then on an itemized receipt, it'll like make sense and it'll show exactly what the tea is. So I love that they have the variables in there.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Booksy has been promoting a feature that allows easier social posting, templates and various things. I imagine that sounds pretty simple. I would bet that others do the same thing. But
Gloss
Booksy
has that.
Okay. Let's see. Mango Mint, they're really making a run at this industry.
They are.
They have added features that allow memberships and subscription capabilities. So I guess if you're a beauty professional and you like the idea of, let's say your service list is very focused on something, you can charge your client. Let's say you're a barber, you can charge your clients, a flat $40 a month, and that includes one haircut a month. Let's say, versus maybe $50 every time they come in for a haircut.
Right.
You can do stuff like that, membership and subscription functionality. Mango Mint also started something called Express Booking, which now this is more for the enterprise. So maybe this is getting a little far afield, but it's a hybrid solution to improve booking live over the phone. So this kind of goes back to our survey conversation that we had earlier in the last episode, where a client calls in to the salon. And then what the salon can do, if they're using Mango Mint, is they can actually text a link to the client. Let's say the client's driving or whatever. And then the client can hit that link and then book digitally.
That's so cool.
It's kind of an interesting hybrid thing, but a couple examples of things that people are offering differently. But as all these features coalesce into what will probably end up being the same service with just little nuances, things are getting commoditized, and this is all very good for the beauty professional because it's very price competitive.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see these prices going up in an inflationary way. That's the one good thing about tech, is that it's actually disinflationary. So things actually get cheaper, and so hopefully
especially
that
now.
continues. Especially
I feel like a lot of the softwares, like post pandemic, like a year or two in, especially because a lot of them blew up post that, they did go through, like, I feel like a lot of tech softwares went through like their big price increases already. But I think now things are getting, like you said, increasingly competitive. And we've seen like a big cool down as far as them risking raising their prices, because they know that like there's so many other solutions out there that they could just jump to if they wanted to.
That's right. And so now it's market share. They're trying to get as many of you as possible, listeners. And so you're going to see a lot of advertising. You're going to see a lot of probably digital marketing advertising, as well as advertising in the trade magazines like Modern and stuff like that. So, all right. Well, I think we covered a lot. Obviously, we didn't cover all of it, but it would take us
a whole day.
4 weeks to go through all of it. So hopefully we covered enough to kind of give people a decent idea of what to think about.
Yes, very much so. And like I said, I have this is what I do, right?
Yes.
And because of it being what I do, I have so many anecdotes from my students, and I get to really hold a finger on the pulse of things when it comes to this, and the features that like people are really loving and like really not loving, or whatever it may be. And so you can reach out to me, listener, if you want to ask about anything and see which one is the right fit for you in your certain circumstance. I'd be happy to share insight if I can.
Yes, please reach out to Hunter. He's Hair by Hunty on Instagram, and I'm sure you can find him all over the internet, website, etc. So listeners, that is your invitation to reach out to Hunter. Hunter, thank you so much. This is awesome. You're just such a wealth of knowledge. And so thank you for having this conversation.
Literally, likewise, I love getting to chat about this stuff, particularly with you, because we could go on for so long. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.